Namaste everybody, I'm Cam. Welcome to the Foundation Method. I'm the host of today's program on a little journey into a concept I call to me, by me, through me, as me, a path to unity. So this is a concept that came up for me over a decade ago, going into recovery rooms and hearing people talk about surrender and, what a spiritual program or a spiritual process might look like on the journey in recovery. And then it came in and showed up in yoga rooms. So yoga teachers were weaving it into philosophy and themes, and usually sort of paralleled it with discussions around the three gunas, so the three modes of energy. So traditional yogic philosophy around a similar idea, which I'll share with you in a minute. And then more recently, it's come up in discussions with Dr. John Nutting, a psychotherapist I've been working with, who in reference to balancing belief systems and working with sub-personalities and doing all that type of self-awareness training. So I thought of sharing it because it's very useful if you are going through a 12-step program and trying to understand the concept of surrender or what the spiritual program or process might look like. If you are balancing belief systems or letting go of negative beliefs, if you're wanting to decide or trying to figure out how to show up in your life energetically. So if you feel like a bit of a victim, you're struggling with, taking control of energetically how you show up in the day, this is really useful. Gives you an insight as to, a couple of techniques of how to balance that. And I'll go into more detail in that in the foundation method itself. It really does help regaining personal power. So you feel like once you've, got a more of an understanding of this, you can take more conscious decision as to where you and how you show up in your day. And then navigating a sense of powerlessness. So post-COVID, people that used to be very grounded and very sure of themselves, a lot of people are having this sense of powerlessness or unsurety on similar emotional parallels to recovering addicts. So for people that are going through that, I thought this was, very important to share. So I've broken down the video into three different parts. So what yoga says about it, traditional yoga, the three gunas, the three modes of energy. Then fast forward to the 1980s, the guy who kind of coined the to me, by me, through me, as me phrase, a guy called Michael Beckwith, and I'll talk more in detail about those different phases. And then I've paralleled it with Dr. John Nutting's discussion around sub-personality groups and the emotional age wheel, which I will talk about a little later. He put it onto a coffee cup so I couldn't forget it, and the way those all interact with this concept of to me, by me, through me, as me. So to start with, traditional yogic philosophy. So we talk about the three gunas. So three modes of energy, and they're not like a pathway from one to the next, although they might seem a bit like that. It's been described more to me as like a braid, so a three-piece braid, and these three energies are always at play within us, and we just make conscious decisions with our yoga practice and meditation and mindfulness as to when we use them. And we take control of these three modes of energy for when they're suitable during the day. So the first one is tamas, and tamas gets a bit of a bad rap because tamas is sedentary, stability, lethargy, stagnation, depression, often associated with meat eating and violence and sort of the lower energetic vibration, more animal vibrations that go through in the human experience. But then there is positive ideas of it, like, stability in a yoga asana class. Your yoga teacher might be talking to grounding and rooting down through the feet so that you can be really stable in a yoga posture. So there is positive use of tamas as well. The next mode is the mode called rajas, or the mode of passion, getting things moving, intensity, drive. I like to think of this as the Instagram life, everyone living their best life and getting things done, achieving their goals, and making things happen. And yeah, it's really important, to get you the energy to get up out of bed, to get kids to school, and drive your car and get to your job, and achieve your goals, and do all those sort of modern Western referenced things that we need to do to live a fulfilled modern lifestyle. The problem with rajas is that too much of it, if you live in it too much, the side effect is burnout. And you'll see this everywhere in our society, these ideas of, people pushing too hard for too long, and the adrenals suffer, and then the nervous system suffers. And then, if they don't burn out, then they get really sick, or they get, pretty terminal diseases that can come up associated with living only, or aspiring to only be in that energy of passion and getting things done. So the next is sattva, or the mode of goodness, or godliness, or compassion, selflessness, clear, calm. The side effect of all your yoga practice. So you've done the rajas, getting moving in your vinyasa class, and you've sweated out, you've busted out a couple of big moves, and then you're lying there in shavasana at the end of it, and you get this beautiful, insightful, lovely, gentle feeling, and that's that mode of sattva. So your yoga class is designed to get you into that mode of sattva, so that then you can more properly meditate and commune with a higher power. So the idea of these three energies is that with practice, you get to choose how you use them. But if you didn't know they were there, then you'd just be a victim to them, and they'd just spontaneously occur in your day at certain different times. So the idea is to choose to get into that mode of sattva when we're communing with the people we love, and doing the things that we find really important, so that we can do them from our most in tune, higher self perspective. So when we're in that mode of sattva, we're more connected with our higher power, and we're making more insightful, wise decisions. And you'll see how that really parallels with Dr. John Nutting stuff a little bit later on, and his insights that he's put through. So moving on, 1980s, mid-1980s, author and founder of the Agape International Spiritual Center, Michael Beckwith, introduced a simple model for understanding the 4 stages of spiritual growth and development. So it's important to say that these are states of consciousness, and not actual stages from one to the next. But again, you might see that some of them, or you might have experienced going from one to the other quite linearly, but they're not necessarily that way. They can come up even after you've attained all 4 of these steps. So first is the mode of to me. So I'm a victim. Life is a series of events, relationships, circumstances that happen to me. That sense of powerlessness, I have no control, or I've lost it. The poor me mentality becomes that addiction, and people can actually live there for most of their life. But I've seen in the recovery rooms, even late adults who've lived their whole life in this victim consciousness transcend it through a 12-step program, or transcend it through a yoga or a spiritual practice. So if you feel like you've been stuck in that consciousness for a long time, don't worry. It's not forever if you choose. So if you do want to get out of that stage, that to me victim stage, the first step is that you must be willing to let go of blame. You've got to embrace your responsibility, as they say in a 12-step program, your side of the street. So once you can take real ownership for that, then you're starting to move out of that to me, and you're starting to discover personal responsibility and personal empowerment, which takes you into the next step, which is by me. So again, it's that get up and moving. It's like rajas, getting things done. You've decided you don't want any more of that sorrow. You're going to make a change, and you're going to start doing things, and you start making conscious decisions, and you start making empowered decisions, right? So moving in your life role as a manifester, claiming your ability to create and influence circumstances in your life. So you feel like, you can do stuff. So the only problem with that is that there's only finite energy in the body. Again, it's part of that rajas passion mentality. If you only stay in that by me idea, it gets very tiring. So, when everything is driven by your will and your will alone, some of the side effects of that can be that you might upset the people around you. You might be too controlling. There might be not enough room in your life for new things to happen. You might be stuck in a cycle of just, on the rabbit wheel of life, which we see out there in the modern world. So in order to move beyond stage 2, I must be willing to let go of control. So that's a big one, especially for guys. Like this is a hard one for us to embrace, but it was one of the best steps that I made in my life once I really got to that point of going, I'm going to let go. I'm going to let a power greater than me do for me what I can't do for myself. And that's, in 12-step programs, we talk about that as surrender, right? So, so in doing that, once you made that decision to let go of control, you discover trust and a connection with energetic forces beyond your individual self. So I had that experience, once I finally surrendered, and I was in this transition where I wasn't working. My doctor had said no more hospitality, so I couldn't just default back into the normal getting things done Cam do it Cam, back in hospitality. The doctor was like, that's not more for you. So instead of freaking out, I had the support of 12-step program and some great spiritual mentors and some good yoga teachers. And then one day my yoga teacher said, we're training yoga teachers. Do you want to apply? Like, you're ready? And I said, look, I don't have the money. He goes, don't worry. I'll, put your name on this list. And then I had a job provider. They gave me some money. And so suddenly I could afford to do it. And then straight out of it, I went into teaching 20 classes a week. And I call that a God job. I didn't do that. I'm using the word God. You might say life, the universe. But it was a power greater than me that I surrendered to, because in my old way of thinking, Cam getting it done, I would have just gone out and got the first job that I could take just to create a sense of stability, which would have robbed me of the opportunity of moving into this next phase of my life. So getting comfortable with being in the unknown. So that brings us to the next step, which is through me, surrender and grace. So asking a higher power in prayer is asking a higher power in prayer is sending your questions out to the universe and asking your questions, and then meditation is listening for the answer. So I'm an instrument and a conduit for life, to move and express through me. So you're allowing life to flow through you. You become more open to synchronicity. There's a phrase, just doing the next right thing. So it's almost like you're not consciously trying, like, sure, you make plans, sure, you get up and do stuff. But the big difference is that you're allowing higher power, higher vision and intuition to make some pretty big decisions that before you probably would have tried to have done by yourself and probably would have struggled. And I love the analogy that I hear in recovery where people say, God doesn't talk to me from a booming voice. It talks to me from the next person that shares their wisdom with me. God talks through them. So I learn through them. They're a power greater than me, and or at least they have the answer that I didn't have, and that's kind of me being humble enough to understand that I might not have all the answers. And when I can have that humility, it opens the door for me to ask other people. When I don't have that humility, I think I have to do it all by myself, and I might miss the opportunity that's sitting right in front of me. And then the next step, so in order to move beyond stage 3 through me, I must be willing to let go of separation. So in doing so, I discover oneness. So another name for yoga is unity. So unity consciousness. So we step into that and make it to this next step, which is as me. So in the consciousness of oneness or non-duality, I find the infinite forces of the universe are one. I am God, spirit, life, being me. A once unique, intrinsically part of the greater whole. I am one with all life. So this is kind of like, I look at this step as the side effect of through me. So when you truly surrender to allowing life to move through you and your higher power to do for you, then the side effect of that is that you get more connected with this unity consciousness. You know, by virtue of that surrender, you're more humble, so you can more easily connect with people in the street, and random strangers, and people you need to talk to get the answers that you don't know. You have a higher sense of trust and groundedness about yourself. So the side effect of that is you feel more comfortable in your skin, you feel more whole, you feel more trusting, like you're being tied to a great oak tree. So and at that point, you know, all is one. And that's kind of where we aim our yoga practice to get us to that point anyway. So yeah, moving on. So, and remembering that these are just stages of consciousness, and not sort of like steps one sequentially. You can have that, like you can be in a profound yoga class and have that experience of unity, and then, you know, go out to dinner with a very triggering parent and be thrown straight back into the victim consciousness. Why FML? What's going on? You know, and then that brings me to the next discussion, which is how this relates to modern psychotherapy. So modern psychology, modern psychotherapy. Dr. John Nutting doesn't, you know, like to call it that. He just likes to call it self-awareness training. And I really connect with that as well. So he talks about the sub-personalities, kind of the work that Hal and Cedra Stone did, you know, talking to sub-personality groups. For the uninitiated, he makes it really simple, and I'll just show you how he does it in his book, and then I'll show you my cup because it's easy to show you the cup. So he's got this color wheel, this emotional age color wheel. And I'll put some links so you guys can see more detail what I've been sharing with you today, so it's easier for you to find out. So to start off with, the emotional age color wheel, you've got this little pink bit here. So this is the pink, the pyros. So the pyro stands for protecting you, young emotionally, ready to protect you, and overreactive. So your inner child is up here, and then these are all the sub-personalities. I've heard different psychotherapists and philosophies talk about them as schemas. You might have heard schemas, but John talks about them as the pyro team. And I kind of connect with that as well, because when I think pyro, I think, you know, pyromaniac, explosive, reactive, and that's all of this stuff. So when you get triggered and you have an out of context reaction, it points to these young protectors coming up to try and drive the bus of the adult, and they end up probably creating a bit more havoc as an adult in your life, but you needed them as a young person to survive. And they were created when you were very young, and some of them, when they, you know, as adults, when we get really triggered, and it does create quite a mess for us. Like, you know, we get these out of context reactions. It can point towards an indicator that one of those guys might be really unbalanced. And then John Nutting has this wonderful process called emotional gym, where energetically you lean into that one and you speak from it and you dialogue with it, come back to the center in the second chair as an adult, and then move over to a third chair, and you create a polar opposite. So energetic opposite of that one, and then by coming back into the middle and then sitting in this one, you learn to balance that. So that's a process of balancing those core beliefs. So the next level emotionally, as we move around here, is the star. Can you see that? Star. That way, Cameron. Other way. I've got a bit of a lag. So down the bottom here, the star, sensible thinking, analytical, and rational. So as one of my teachers says, the rational lies. So we do need these guys, or these guys, the sensible thinking, analytical, and rational, because they help pull us out and they manage the pyro team. So they make good, strong decisions. They're a little bit more logical. They help us oscillate in, get through our jobs, our working lives, and make all of those decisions. But they lack what the next guy has. This is our wing side, our wing team here, and the blues. And so the wing is worthwhile, integrated, and grown up. And so what the wing has is things like intuition, creativity, the sense of play, the sense of joy and lightness. The star team's very good for getting things done. They're a little bit too serious. They take themselves a bit too serious, and that's a little bit more like that. Star to wing is sort of surfing in that, rajas guna, and tamas is sitting more in that, pyro to rajas, somewhere in there. Because if you have a trigger and say really offend somebody, and it's somebody that you really care about, the side effect of that is that you might feel depressed afterwards and you've gone back into tamastic energy. And then the final step, which is this higher power, surrender, through me and as me, is the sage. So self aware, grown up energy. So SAGE, self, the real self as well, grown up, aware and intuitive, connected with higher power, sattva guna, if you wanted to call it that, through me and as me, if you wanted to look at it in that way. And so with the emotional age wheel, what we're trying to do is lean more into the parts of the emotional age that we need to make the adult grown-up decisions so that our life works with better choices. And so in a similar way to the three gunas, tamas and rajas and sattva, we choose where we place ourselves in. They're always there, as the same in the to me, by me, as through me, and as me. Those stages are always present, but we get to choose where we're placing ourselves once we're aware of it. And then the same thing with the emotional age wheel and the sub-personality groups. When we notice these reactions come up, we then use this emotional gym technique, which I can talk to you more about if we do our one-on-one sessions in the foundation method, as a way of balancing those those guys when they come up and they try and cause havoc. John uses the bus analogy. You got a whole team sitting in the bus, and you only want the adult doing the driving. You don't want the kids doing the driving, because they're not supposed to drive. This is adults' business. So look, I hope that's been really useful. It's been infinitely useful for me as far as ideas of trying to regain self-control, give me a sense of understanding what's going on when I feel powerless, and then using yoga techniques and breath techniques as a way of balance me through to take me from my tamastic energy into the rajas energy, so I can oscillate in the sattva energy when I want to connect and commune with people, and then that helps me balance my inner children and my team in the bus, and it also gives me a good understanding as to where I'm at on the to me, by me, through me, as me part of the program. So if you've enjoyed that, please just hit a little subscribe on the button there and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then come across to the foundationmethod.com, foundationmethod.com, and I'll put links in the comments there, and there's a free training video where I go through some 6 of the biggest problems and some of the high quality solutions on your road to your wellness journey, as well as access to the Foundation Method program itself, and I can be your personal mentor. So if you're interested, shoot me a message, or I'll see you in the Foundation Method, and just check in the comments there, because I'll put a bunch of links so you can explore a little bit more information on these 3 parts that I've explored for you today. So namaste, hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.